right, Chris, you made it. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I know you and I have been talking for a long time on Instagram. You were the first one to actually send me content, and it was pretty damn cool. Like when I was working 2 jobs when I started qualified captain, and you were sending me Coast Guard rescues, gnarly SAR rescues and all this stuff. And I shared it online, and I'm like, man, our followers are really into this.
Yeah.
So I kept on collecting and reached out to you, and now here we are 3 years later and got to meet you. So
yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. So before we get rolling, do you mind telling everybody like who your little background about yourself and your career in the Coast Guard?
Yeah. I've been in the Coast Guard for 17 years almost. I was in the Marines prior to that. 4 years off in between, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and ended up coming back in the military anyway. But yeah, after 4 years in the Marine Corps, kind of developed kind of the backbone of who I became, and I never forgot that. So joining the Coast Guard to be a rescue swimmer was the plan after that. During the time in between, I was looking at it, and there was quite a wait to join the rescue swimmer program. And back in the day, it was 3 and 4 years that people would wait for their opportunity to go to the school. So it wasn't working for me at the time. And then when I finally looked at it, and back in 2006, it was not that wait anymore. It was like 8 months, 8 or 10 months. I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, the time is now. So made the arrangements, met with the recruiter, and got it done. It was pretty good.
What'd you do in that time between?
I went to college for fire science. Got that knocked out. My family is retired LA City Fire, so I was trying to get into that program as well. But I had a full-time job and just wasn't loving what I was doing, and we kept circling back to the Coast Guard. So
yeah, I was talking to these gentlemen earlier. They said there's a lot of Marines that want to transfer to the Coast Guard after you did 4 years in the Marines, I'm assuming?
4 years, yep.
And where were you at? Where was that out of?
A couple places. I went to boot camp in San Diego, what they call Hollywood Marines. So if you're in the Marines, you'll know that. The other one's out here in North Carolina. So there's a little love-hate going on between those, but it's all love in the end. So
Yeah,
I went to Iwakuni, Japan as my first unit. After that, did a year out there, and then went to Camp Pendleton, California. So
nice. So you got to travel a little bit with that.
Yeah, a little bit. Young guy, you know.
Once you went from the Marines down now to the Coast Guard, what was that training? I mean, do you get to go right in as a specific officer, or?
No, I had to go back through boot camp. Well, I shouldn't say boot camp. At the time, it was a program called Pit Stop. It was a shortened version of boot camp. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks long. It was a little while ago now, but I'm not even sure if they have the program. But it was basically, here's your uniforms. We're going to go through Coast Guard history, teach you about our traditions and the rates, and basically everything Coast Guard. And we did PT, all the normal stuff. It just wasn't with the same intensity that you actually just saw on your trip down there to.
That was really
it's not. It's there. It's happening at the same time, but it's not the same level of intensity because everybody in my group had been through a boot camp. From another branch of service before.
Yeah, no, that was fun. We got to go through the whole experience.
Yeah, it looks crazy.
And a lot of people, like even Marines, were saying like that core or that 8 weeks is not easy too.
Right.
I feel like a lot of people underestimate that.
Yeah.
But
that's what I hear.
So now today in the Coast Guard, what are you doing now?
I'm a aviation survival technician, and everybody knows us as helicopter rescue swimmers, but aviation survival technician, or AST, is our rating title.
Everybody I talk to that's questioning the Coast Guard, or they reach out to me, and I usually send them to Ryan or whoever, and they always ask, how do you become a rescue swimmer? That's like the number. Everybody wants to become a rescue swimmer.
Right. Yep.
What is the challenge? What is there a wait time? Is it very competitive? I mean,
yeah. It's a highly sought after position for sure. The wait time 6 months to 12 months right now to get into school, to have your chance to be successful at that school. But there's a process to get through there. You got to obviously start with your recruiter, and you have to do a physical assessment. You go to the boot camp, you do another physical assessment there. Those are all things that have to happen before you get out to the fleet and do, get involved in the actual rescue swimmer training. But eventually you'll get assigned to a unit, an air station that has helicopters and ASTs, helicopter rescue swimmers, stationed at that unit, and you'll train with them. and then you'll go to Training Center Petaluma, which is where the Helicopter Rescue Swimmer School is.
That's where you're at.
That's where I'm at. And you'll do a 1-week prep course, and that essentially just gives you a snapshot of what AST school is going to look like. And then it gives the staff, us, a chance to evaluate those candidates coming through, and we send them back with a bunch of feedback, positive, negative, on everything. We loop in their supervisors and make sure everybody knows what they need to be training on before they come back for school. Because after they come to prep, they're usually back with us in 3 to 6 months for
the actual training.
For the actual AST school.
Wow, that's a lot to go through before you get actually into the physical training.
Right.
Damn.
It is and it isn't, because there's the Coast Guard has a bunch of other missions going on at the same time. So you're out there, you want to be a rescue swimmer, but you still, depending on where you're stationed, you still have a job to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So carving out the time to get your physical training in and get yourself where you need to be mentally and physically is not always the easiest thing to do for some of these candidates. So
what kind of physical training?
I
know there's a lot, but
it's everything you can imagine. So we do everything on what we call the grinder. It's a outdoor or indoor space where we do body weight exercises, everything for body weight exercises, kettlebell stuff, basically training calisthenics and weights and strength and power and all that stuff to try to get your body to its maximum potential before getting into rescue swimmer school. So
yeah, man, I watched some of the videos on YouTube of the training, but is rescue swimming training in the Coast Guard the hardest training?
I'm biased, but yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it might be. There are some other programs out there that are pretty tough from what I hear, but I haven't experienced those, so I can't speak to them. But our school is pretty tough. Our attrition rate is historically at the 50-60% mark.
Oh, so, wow, really? Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody asks though. I want to be a rescue swimmer. I want to be a rescue swimmer, and I tell them. I said, look, I don't know, but anything's possible. I think you got to just push it and take your time and be patient, right?
Absolutely, and that's one of the biggest things is time. Mm-hmm. I kind of just laid out the timeline for you there, but the reality is it's not often enough time for people when they show up to us. They have not been training hard enough with the right volume, the right intensity for long enough by the time they get to us. And our school is not long enough to fix those problems, if that makes sense.
Apparently I was talking, they said there's a little shortcut to get prepped for it. Is Annex X, does that help at all? Or tell me a little bit about that.
That's kind of what I explained early on with the going to your recruiter and signing up through them to be in the rescue swimmer training pipeline. Mm-hmm. That is the Annex X program. So they'll sign up with a recruiter. As I mentioned, you'll get a PT test from them. You'll get a PT test at boot camp, and those are just making sure that you're physically capable of hitting the kind of lowest benchmarks of our training program, and making sure that you can do some of the simple push-ups, pull-ups, swimming, mile run, all that stuff. So there's not a lot of the swimming is actually kind of minimal in some of those assessments.
That's
just
what
because
I was about to ask you. Like, what is the swimming requirements?
Yeah, the swimming requirements and the assessments are pretty nil because they don't have the staff or the capability to do any of the underwater training. So they don't really touch on that until they get to an air station when they can be exposed to that with an actual AST.
And that's where they do all like breath hold training and all stuff like that, or?
Correct. Yeah. We do. We have to be comfortable being underwater. That's part of the job. Yes. The nature of the game. You'll be operationally, or in a training environment, you'll be outside the helicopter and, anything from 5 to 30 or 40 foot waves. So if you get underneath one of those things, you've got to be able to manage that, manage that stress and be okay with it. So the underwater training that we do is intense but it serves a purpose.
Can you tell me a little bit about it, or
with the training?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's no secret. They're just doing, in the pool as much as you can simulate that high intensity training, but it's in the pool, underwaters, while exhausted, you're doing PT in between. Mm-hmm. You're doing over-unders, which is basically swimming on the surface for half the pool and swimming underneath for the other half. We do a bunch of that. It's just there's a whole list of drills we go through, and the candidates will be exposed to that in great detail when they get there to their units. But it's just the volume and intensity side of it that really, really ramps it up and gets you comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because I feel like you never know what you're going to see, man. I just off the top of my head, I'm thinking about that first video you sent me, and it was you. You had a GoPro on your head, I believe, right? And there was a sailboat down. It was I don't was it in New York? I saw that the sailboat was
That
from
one
New
wasn't me, actually.
Oh, that wasn't you.
No, that wasn't me.
Who was it then?
That was another rescue swimmer that was stationed with me up in Cape Cod. His name is Ed Bezort.
Dude, that was nuts.
Yeah, that was nuts. That's just one of many that we had
Because
going
I
on up there at the
remember,
time. Yeah,
like in the video, when he was coming up to it. Well, first of all, it was huge. I don't know. The swell looked like it was easily over 15 foot.
yeah.
And the mast was down, and the solar panel. There was wires and crap everywhere. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how the hell is he gonna get on this boat?
Yeah.
And like those are just kind of things that like you guys have to make that decision on the spot.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
you've got to be able to navigate that and sort through those problems and ultimately get those people and yourself home.
It's almost stuff that you can't really. You can train as much as possible, but you still can't train for specific things like that.
Right. And we at school, we talk about it all the time. Like, hey, we can't recreate everything that you're going to experience out there. We can't. We can give you scenarios. We can give you tips and tricks and things to do to help you out, help your decision making out. But it's the getting you to the point where you're okay making those decisions under stress and sorting through the problem on your own. That's our goal, right? Teaching you the fundamentals of rescue and getting people into the devices and how to work under a helicopter and all that stuff is all part of the training pipeline. But it's impossible to recreate what we're going to see out there. And like that case, in many cases like it, it's just you can show them the videos, you can talk about it, but until they go out there and do it themselves, it's really, really hard to recreate something like that for them. So.
Is there ever a boundary where the rescue swimmer has to make that decision himself? Like, hey, maybe we have to back down. We can't do this.
Yeah, we do it as an individual in the water for sure. That could be a decision point. I don't think it happens too often. Most of them will just
and that's the thing.
Go
like,
for it. But
I would. I mean, if this was me as a rescue swimmer, I would always think in the back of my mind, like, no, I'm not going to give up. But at some point, like, if
you might have to.
Yeah.
We talk about that too. There may be a decision point where you have to get yourself out of there so you can stay safe, right? And we have these discussions as flight crews too, the pilots and the helicopter and the flight mechanic in the back. Before we even leave the door of the helicopter, we're risk assessing and making sure that what we're about to embark on is safe. Are we going to be able to get it done safely? Can we get everybody home, get everybody back? How are we going to do it? What are the possible outcomes here? What can we do to mitigate some of our risk? We talk about all that stuff as a flight crew before we ever start the mission. So
does it take who makes the final decision?
The pilot in command
up
in the helicopter will be the first, or be the last one, I should say, to stop it at that point. So he'll
make sense.
Yeah, he's the one who owns it. He signs for the aircraft, and we have an open discussion in the helicopter. Nobody's voice is unheard back there, and we go forth from there. And the decision ultimately rests on the pilot in command. So.
That makes total sense. Yeah. Is there any case that comes off the top of your mind, just that you've had to deal with where you've maybe said no, or
not in the sense of like urgent search and rescue? We have turned down a lot of cases for weather where it's just not safe for us to fly through, 50, 60 knot winds and snowstorms and stuff to go get somebody who, I don't know, maybe has appendicitis or something, right? Like maybe that's a bad example, but it's maybe a not urgent medical necessity to go pick somebody up. But we will go out there if those are, hey, their boat's sinking and they're in the life raft. And if we can mitigate that risk and, the reward is there, the risk versus reward is there, then there's a high likelihood that we're going to go give it a shot.
What's the gnarliest thing you've done? I mean, that you remember that just was like, holy crap, that was crazy.
Yeah, actually, I've had a lot of what we call medevacs, right? Coming off of, we just go down to a boat or to the land and and do medical evacuation of people. I've had some pretty crazy medevacs. I had a pretty wild burn case off of San Diego on a container ship. It was not very far offshore, but he was like 68% of his body was burned in an electrical fire. Getting through that gigantic container ship to where he was and getting him packaged up and getting him out of there and hoisted. And it was a 200-foot hoist that we had to do to get him out. And I was the only rescue swimmer there.
Okay, I was wondering if they sometimes launch maybe 2 down, but
yeah, the 2 rescue swimmer thing, that'll happen sometimes, but it's really just does the timing work? Is there somebody else there, right? And if there isn't, can we wait the time it's going to take to bring somebody in? Is anybody even available? So 2 rescue swimmers do go on cases, but we're not staffed that way.
It's funny that these medevac cases came to mind. I always think like, and everybody else that's listening probably thinks the same thing. Like, what about, I mean, he's like the rescue swimmer side. I mean, getting launched off a helicopter, swimming to the sunken boat. Is there any of those stories that you've?
Yeah,
I'm sure there is.
Oh yeah, I've got a few of them. My very first actual SAR case as a helicopter rescue swimmer, I was in Kodiak, Alaska, and I was eating breakfast in our galley at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the pager goes off, and I was like, "Oh, here we go! This is my first one." I was super pumped, and it's ended up being a fishing boat, 52-foot fishing boat up in Alaska that caught on fire in their galley. And I think it was like a coffee pot, something like that. Just something burned up in the galley, and they lost the boat. They abandoned ship, got in a life raft, and they set off their EPIRB. So we're flying out there, and I'm like, we get a lot of EPIRB cases, right? We're always launching on EPIRBs, and we're not always hopeful that it's going to actually be something because there's a lot of accidental EPIRB
all the time,
right?
Yeah.
So we were thinking like, okay, this is probably another one of those. And then on the horizon, you could see a plume of smoke just on the surface of the water. We were like, oh, okay.
There it is.
Yeah, this might be real. I started getting nervous, my first one. My heart's pounding.
How old were you?
Oh, how old was I? 29?
Okay.
29, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
You're stoked.
I was pumped. I was just like jazzed up. I was just, giddy, like, let's go. Yeah. Obviously, this is somebody's worst day of their life, and I'm over here having a great time and getting ready to go. But this is what I trained for.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty pumped. We get over top of the raft, and they send me down, and just like you just described, swam over to the raft, introduced myself, and there was 4 people in that raft, and we got them out of there, hoisted them up, and it was pretty straightforward, just getting them. They were in survival suits. We just got them out of the raft and brought them back up. I went back and scuttled the raft, and then they picked me up, and we took them back.
That's awesome. That's going to be so damn rewarding.
Yeah, it is great. And they were actually a local fishing crew from Kodiak.
Okay.
And I would see them occasionally in the local Walmart on Kodiak. So that was kind of cool to see back in the day. But
is there any others? I
had one in San Diego. There was I think it was 45 or 55 foot. It was like a super nice carbon fiber like sailing boat that was brand new, and they were moving it from Hawaii to Newport Beach off the coast of California there. And same thing. We got a EPIRB that was going off, and they ended up in between launching us. They ended up making contact on a sat phone. They had lost power. They were taking on water, lost power, and they needed to abandon ship. They couldn't figure out how to stop the water from coming on. So we initially thought, should we try to get a dewatering pump on there? Further conversation, they were just too far behind in the process, and they didn't think it would be logical to do that essentially. So we get out there, it's midnight, 210 miles off the coast of San Diego.
Wow.
And no moon, can't see a thing. The Coast Guard launched a C-130 from Air Station Sacramento. They flew all the way down to provide like top cover for us essentially, because we're so far offshore. And they were also dropping flares so that we could see.
Yeah.
So our helicopter pilots, when there's no moon, it's very difficult for them to hover.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll use those flares that are dropped from the fixed wing, the C-130s and whatnot, as a hover reference, so they can see where the water line is and keep the helicopter where they need to.
I never thought about that. That makes total sense. Yeah, because that water line is constantly changing.
Right.
It's not like land. Yeah,
right. And that night it was going pretty good. It was 30 knot winds and probably 15-foot confused sea state out there. So they put me in the water. They put me behind the boat. They've got a life raft attached to the back of the boat. They put me in the water, and I get in the water, start swimming. I was like, oh man, this thing is moving. Like the wind's pushing this boat in the opposite direction from me. I'm in a I'm in a full dry suit, my fins and harness, my helmet, all that stuff. I started swimming out this thing. I'm like, this is never going to work, right? So I aborted that, called for a pickup, and I got back in the door of the helicopter and I said, hey, can you put me in front of the boat and I'll let it go by me and then I'll get on. So that's what we ended up doing. Got put back down in front of the boat, swam over to where the raft was, grabbed onto the line, pulled myself up to the boat, ended up climbing up the side of the back of the sailboat. I talked to them briefly. They all had life jackets on, ready to go. And we had one person in that boat that didn't want to get off the boat. They were uncomfortable with obviously disembarking this boat in 200 miles offshore, 15-foot seas, very chaotic scene. I don't blame them. It's a lot to do and put your trust in somebody to get out of there. But that resulted in me kind of taking them off the boat. We jumped off together.
Say, what do you have to?
Yeah. I put my hands in their life jacket, and we just went off I just jumped off the side of the boat and
no harness
in a safe. No, just holding on to them in a safe spot. We were clear of the boat. Once that happened and we got in the water, and I took control of that situation, called for the rescue basket. They were totally fine with the outcome of that. So, but it has to happen. We don't have a lot of time. We're out there. We're fuel limited. You can't always, let the survivors dictate how the situation is going to unfold. Right? You got to get moving. So so we got that person in a basket, and I turn around and look as they're going up. I'm looking back for the boat, and it's gone. I'm like, where'd the boat go, man? It's no, it didn't sink. The wind's still pushing it away. Oh. And we took so long to get that one person picked up. The boat had just gone away at that point.
Wow.
So they picked me back up and they flew me back over to where the boat was, but same thing on repeat. There was 4 people on that boat, and we did that 4 times. They put me in front of the boat. And then
how fast was it moving?
I mean, faster than I could swim. It was going at a pretty good clip. But I would get next to the boat. That was like one of the sketchiest things for me, was being in front of this boat. The helicopter would put me down in front of it. I'd unhook, and then it's dark outside. There's a black carbon fiber boat, and I can kind of see it's like its shape, and I'm trying to get close enough to it, but not get hit by it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what I had told the other guys on the boat was, when I come back, I'm going to get in the water in front of the boat. I'm going to pass by. I'm going to signal to you. I want you to jump off the boat to me. So that's what we did the following 3 pickups. We just went back through, and they were all ready and willing to go. They one at a time would just jump off the side of the boat. They'd land right next to me. I'd grab them up in a tow, take them to the basket. I'd get picked up, reset, do it again. We did that.
That's insane.
A couple times and got them out. Yeah.
Do you have any communication with the helicopter like on a radio?
We do. We have a radio. We have headsets that are waterproof, and then we also just have the radio itself can be used as a handheld radio. But we got to take it out of the water and all that stuff. So we actually really rely on hand signals more than anything, and we teach that through our school process too. Just the importance of giving good hand signals to the flight crews.
There's got to be so much training, man, and I'm always curious to see, hear the curriculum or however you guys do it, because like you said, I mean, this situation right here, you had to come up with out of your own mind, like, okay, hey guys, we're going to do it like this now. It didn't work the first time, so you're coming up with that on the spot.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah,
that's the name of the game. We can teach you the fundamentals of rescue. Like I said, you can teach you how to put somebody in a basket, teach you how to tow somebody, right? Teach you to deal with a combative survivor. We do all that. But getting out there and actually having the ability to make those game time decisions and make the right decisions to save somebody's life, that's the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're trying to achieve by doing that.
And timing too. I mean, would you say you're 200 miles off?
Yeah.
So in that situation, I mean, how much time do you have once you're on scene?
I think that helicopter's got some legs on it. So we could go, I think it was about 600 miles round trip in the H60, MH60 Jayhawk. We were 200, so I'm going to ballpark about 30 minutes on scene we had, maybe a little bit more.
Damn, you did all that in 30 minutes?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And they operate like that all the time. The other helicopter that we fly, the H-65 Dolphin, it has even less. It's a medium range helicopter, short. short to medium range helicopter, so it has even less range than that. And they have to make even faster decisions on that. Sometimes rescue swimmers get left on scene, and we're trained for that as well.
So that's crazy. So if you get left on scene, you're just waiting for the next helicopter to get there?
The next one to get there, or that one to come back, or another Coast Guard asset or somebody to come pick you up.
Damn.
It happened to me one time on a training flight, and it's never happened to me on a SAR case. But
on a training flight?
Yeah. The helicopter is again off San Diego, where it's a beautiful day in San Diego. I'm in the water. We have a training life raft that the flight mechanics need to deploy the raft as part of their skill set. And they threw the raft. I was in the water waiting for it. They threw the raft out, but it was the real raft, and it hit the water, and it came undone. And I was like, "What are you guys doing? It's supposed to be." And the helicopter flies away. I'm like, "What are they doing?" So I call on the radio, no answer. I'm like, "What is going on?" They're flying away. They turn around, they go back towards land, and I'm calling them, no answer. I'm like, what in the heck? And then it dawned on me. I was like, "Oh, they're dealing with an emergency right now." So that is what unfolded. Is they had an engine fire indication. So they threw the real raft to me because they were legit going to leave me there, and then they needed to go deal with their potential engine fire, which ended up being not a real thing.
Do you have like an EPIRB or anything on you?
Yeah.
Okay.
All rescue swimmers have individual EPIRBs that are in their harness. So I did. I turned that thing. I didn't talk to them the whole time. They just disappeared. And then I turned that thing on, and a Coast Guard boat came and picked me up probably an hour and a half later.
And that's all through training.
Yeah.
How crazy was that training video? Remember it was a stolen boat out of somewhere up in British Columbia, and that boat rolled over, and that guy I think he was on a training, right? I mean, you probably know the story better than me.
Yeah. That's, I haven't met that young man, but that was a great SAR case for him. Stolen boat out of British Columbia, I think, but it was the boat rolled over at Cape Disappointment, I believe, up in Oregon, and that helicopter and that crew launched out of Air Station Astoria. And I think they were on a training flight. It could have been, so our advanced helicopter rescue school is up there, and it's in that exact same place. So if I'm remembering the story, the details correctly, that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
They had a class up there, and they got diverted for this, and he was on that.
Yeah, imagine that.
On that case.
He was young too. I think he was like 27 or 20.
That's a great example of what I was talking about with the water confidence and being comfortable, being uncomfortable, because that's a tough spot to be in. If you've watched that video, that boat rolls over the rescue swimmer. If you take note of where he is, he goes fully under that wave. And you've got to be good to get through that and come up and have your bearings, and then still go get the job done after that.
And he did a damn good job.
Yeah, no, he did great.
That video blew up, man. I remember seeing that. I was like, oh wow, the boat just missed him, and he went completely underwater.
Yeah, pretty wild stuff.
Out of all the spots that you've been stationed at, what did you like the most? Like what location?
I mean, San Diego's pretty nice, right?
Yeah.
Like great weather. I had a good time down there. Had a lot of good search and rescue cases at San Diego for me from a career standpoint, but I would say Cape Cod, Massachusetts was it was a surprise for me. I didn't think that was going to be what it ended up being. It was a great unit, great command, great team there, and it really, really good flying, really good search and rescue. Ended up being a really good thing for me.
Did you stay busy up there?
Yeah, it's pretty busy for sure. Winter, summer, doesn't matter. It's always busy.
Busier than out west? Like
I think the North Atlantic fishing fleet is busier than what comes out of San Diego, but yeah, it was pretty wild.
That's where I'm originally from, is in New Jersey.
Okay.
And I know a lot of scallop boats out there, and then they all work together, with the Coast Guard communication wise. And it's cool to see when I would go and visit up in Barnegat Light. I mean, they all have a good network of friends that, I feel like that's how you got to be on the water.
Yeah.
We used to, when I worked with CETO, we would communicate with the Coast Guard all the time. So we build these good relationships on the water.
Yeah.
But,
I had a good one up there, and just another medevac off of Montauk, New York, right? It was a fishing trawler, I think. They were pulling the net up, and they had a stingray, and they told me it was a 300-pound stingray. I'm thinking like manta ray or something. It was a huge stingray, they said. Pulled up, it was dark, and one of the barbs was sticking through the net, and it went right through the lower leg of one of their crew members, right through it. And they pulled the barb out. It was a couple barbs, actually, they were probably this long. And I took pictures of it, and I had to take the actual barbs in like a plastic bag back to the hospital just to make sure it was all good. But this guy was in the most excruciating pain.
Oh, I can imagine.
Have you ever been stung by a stingray or something?
No, but I've witnessed one. It's really scary because that infection can go really fast to the blood and kill you. This one guy, he got done. He was surfing and he was walking off the beach. He got hit, and he came back to the marina and he showed us. He didn't get completely like inserted, but it stung him pretty good. And we were looking at him like, yeah, man, you should go to the, go to the hospital. Like, you just got stung. It's starting to get pretty swollen. Came back the next day, didn't do anything. And I mean, this close to losing his ankle. Like, they might have had to cut it off. But yeah, it's gnarly, dude. You don't want to mess around with it.
No, I did it off of San Diego. I didn't do the stingray shuffle, going out, and got one in my heel.
Oh,
it was brutal. But I went to the hospital, and they took the little barbs out of my foot. I mean, they were this big, they were tiny, by comparison to what this guy had in his leg. But they took them out, and I was just in excruciating pain for the next 2 hours. And they said, no, it just has to run its course. So I sat there in the emergency room, and just, the most excruciating pain. And then all of a sudden it stopped. I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, it's weird. No, I've never had it happen to me, but I've witnessed it to a few people. And like I said, it can kill you fast. So you said the one the barb that went through the guy's leg, you cut it out and
No, the crew did.
Okay.
I think they pulled it out of his leg, but he still had pieces of it in different parts of his lower leg. But I went down to this boat, and the second I unhooked from the hook and I turned the corner, I could hear the audible screaming. And he was down inside the bottom of the ship by the galley. He was in just an extreme amount of pain from the incident, and he was bleeding a lot.
In that situation, as you're just a rescue swimmer, right? So your job's only to get him up onto the helicopter, but is there any training you guys do in a medical standpoint where
every rescue swimmer is an EMT. So,
okay, wow.
Nationally certified EMT. So that's a part of our training pipeline that they get when they come to ASTA school or rescue swimmer school. Yeah.
So you could most likely handle any situation on board for the most part.
Yeah, there's definitely things that you would need another level of care for, like paramedic. There's certain situations where that could be helpful for sure. But for the most part, the EMT is able to get your patient to the next level of care, a hospital or a waiting ambulance somewhere or something like that. So yeah, it's definitely a nice skills to have to go in a situation like that and be able to take care of it. So essentially I went down there he was, like I said, screaming, and he was bleeding everywhere.
Gives me chills.
And I took a quick look. They had covered up the hole in his leg from the barb that went through. And I took a quick look at it, and blood started pouring out. So I took a tourniquet out, put it up on his leg, and got the bleeding to stop from the tourniquet. And then I packaged up the leg a little bit better than it was, and then went back outside the boat, asked for the rescue litter, which is probably as long as this table. We lay, an adult in to get him hoisted out. We do that when the injury or the situation, the circumstances, warrant them being strapped down, essentially.
Yeah.
We need to immobilize them, or we need to use it to keep them safe or whatnot. So our normal rescue device is a basket, but with somebody that was in that much pain, you can sometimes get an altered level mental state, through some of that trauma. And I don't want to ever worry about them
jumping or something,
crawling out of it, or just not having their bearings and not staying in it. So I opted to put them in a rescue litter, got them strapped down in there, and then brought him back out to the deck of the boat. And I had to hoist in between. It was probably as wide as this table. The litter is almost as wide as the table. And I had to hoist him through this very narrow spot between the superstructure of the boat and the side of the boat. But I had great flight mechanic, great pilots, and we got him out of there. And then they picked me back up, and we dropped him off at Rhode Island Hospital. That's still screaming the whole time.
Well, as you're saying this, you're getting him out of a tight little area. And for people listening, you got to remember, you're on a freaking boat and a helicopter that's flying and everything's moving. To me, that's incredible work.
Yeah, it's that was a tight one, for the very tight window to get the litter up, and you can't let it really spin coming out of there. It's got to stay in that same
And you don't
spot
want
the
too
whole
much
time.
slack, right? Or else you're just
Yeah.
going to get that effect where it's just,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
The flight mechanic that was hoisting, he nailed it. It was great.
that's a
So
killer job too.
yeah, those guys are fantastic.
When we were
Guys
at
and girls
up
are
on the
fantastic.
helicopter with those guys in Atlantic
Yeah.
City, that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
That's
the guy I was talking to about, I'm like, you going to be a rescue? He's like, I love my job the way it is right now.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's cool. They see a lot of stuff, and I mean they're spending their time fixing those helicopters. So,
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
and then they get to fly on them and do all the search and rescue cases with us. It's great. And just a great team environment at
Yeah.
the air stations.
Oh,
for sure.
we
So,
enjoyed it, man. We had a blast visiting that.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
Back to the history of rescue swimming. I mean, that's the first thing you tell these guys. Well, how do you go about that?
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable how it all came to be. So I believe it was 1983. There was a motor vessel that sank off of Virginia called the Marine Electric, and I could have the numbers wrong. I think it was 34 people entered the water that night in a cold February night. Hypothermia immediately set in. We did not have an established rescue swimmer program at the time, but the Navy did. The Coast Guard launched a helicopter out there with a rescue basket, and they were putting the basket down in the water, and the basket had kind of collapsible sides to it so people could climb into it. They were so hypothermic they couldn't climb into it. So they weren't hoisting anybody out of the water that night. The Navy showed up with their rescue swimmer. He was in 40-foot seas, trying to put them in the same basket, but the sides kept buckling because they were just using the wrong device. It wasn't really well thought out back then. And they only ended up, they hoisted a number of people, but they only ended up saving, I think only 3 people survived that. So 31 people perished in that incident. And a year later, the Coast Guard got the congressional approval to start a rescue swimmer program. So that 1984 is when that started. I believe later in 1984, they graduated the first 5 rescue swimmers from Navy Rescue Swimmer School in Pensacola. And those 5 started at Air Station Elizabeth City in right here in North Carolina. So
you learn something new every day, man.
Yeah.
I did not. That's not that old.
It's not that old. And in the history of our program, we just a month and a half ago graduated rescue swimmer number 1,109.
Wow.
So since 1984, 1,109 people have earned the title of aviation survival technician or helicopter rescue swimmer.
Wow.
So we talk about the level of dedication it takes. That should put it a little bit in perspective. We just haven't made that many over all those years. It's not that many people.
In retrospect, you're almost kind of still getting started. There's so much new technology too that can help in the future.
Oh yeah, it's only the beginning for sure.
That's crazy to think, because I would never have guessed that it was only that young. I mean, that's not old at all.
Yeah, it's not old at all.
That's crazy.
Pretty wild.
Good history fact, man. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, of course.
You gotta always have something new in there.
Yeah, I always have, when my students don't know the facts, I always make them go back and do the homework. Like, hey, you better learn where you're coming from here.
Hell
you're
yeah.
Going to be part of this crew, you know?
So after you finished your career as an active rescue swimmer, how'd you get into the training? Like, I mean, I'm sure you had to go through a whole school to just become an actual trainer, right?
Yeah, I'll just talk through that process. But yeah, I flew operationally for a little over 15 years in the helicopters, and then had the opportunity to become an instructor, and I was making chief petty officer at the same time. So I took the opportunity to give back to the rate and bring up the next generation of rescue swimmers over the 4 years, and that's kind of what did it for me. But super rewarding job to have, and I'm at that point in my career where I felt like that was an appropriate time to do that, and I couldn't be happier with it. But yeah, to touch on how to become an instructor, anybody if you're in your rate in the Coast Guard, every rate has a school, you can go be an instructor at some point. Usually E5 or higher they'll take, but there's instructor courses you take once you get the job. Once you get assigned to that job, and you go take instructor courses on, there's some public speaking things and just working through curriculums and stuff like that. They're not long, they're not very intensive, and you get qualified to be a teacher essentially at your different schools. So it's kind of that in a nutshell.
Do you, what do you like better? Instructing, or do you miss going on that helicopter?
Yeah, full transparency. Oh man, especially seeing the social media stuff.
Yeah.
Back in the day, nobody was on social media, so you heard about rescues from word of mouth, right? Now everything gets posted to social media, and for the first probably 2 years I was instructing, I'd see it on social media. I'm like, dang, I'm missing this? Did I do the right thing? But as time went on, like I'm seeing these young candidates come through, and they're graduating. And now I'm seeing them do search and rescue cases on social media, and that's awesome. That for me is like full circle. I'm like, okay, like this is impactful. It's what I'm supposed to be doing right now, and I just absolutely love it. It's
fantastic. Awesome, man. Yeah, you're like, I trained that kid.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see.
Yeah, sure. I sent you a DM once, and I was like, I think it was during one of the hurricanes. I was like, hey, are you guys out there? Are you busy right now? You're like, I'm actually an instructor now, man.
Yeah. I switched over. Everybody thinks that helicopter rescue swimmer, right? Like that we're just in the water doing rescue swimming, and saving people from sinking vessels and whatnot. Yeah. But that actually couldn't be further from the truth of what we do day in and day out. So
I'm glad you brought this up. I want to explain to everybody.
Yeah, rescue swimmers. We have our mission set is ever expanding, if you will. So we've always kind of been asked to do more than that, but there's never really been a lot of formal training behind it. So I think back to, this is actually a year before I even joined the Coast Guard, but Hurricane Katrina hit in New Orleans and just hammered it, and flooding everywhere. And if you've seen videos from that, there's rescue swimmers being lowered out of the helicopters and put on the rooftops, and cutting through rooftops to get people out. Just all basic like flood work and inland search and rescue work. That's all stuff that we kind of, I guess, pioneered along the way, right?
Yeah.
The crews just went out there and had a conversation. How can we do this? What are we going to do to stay safe? Can we get this done? Yes, great. Let's go do it. Let's save these people. So that's kind of how all that evolved. We've been responding to hurricanes and natural disasters for a long time, and I think you've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, nationwide. Everybody thinks just the coastline. It's not necessarily true.
It really isn't. Yeah, we have units all the way up in the Great Lakes for an aviation standpoint. Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, all that stuff.
Do you guys see any changes in the future? Anything?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's kind of ever evolving. We're doing our training pipeline now. We have the Advanced Helicopter Rescue Swimmer School in Oregon, and there's a whole vertical surface and urban hoisting portion of that now. That the urban part is fairly new.
Yeah.
So we're adding things to it for sure.
I think that's awesome. I've gotten footage sent to me before of I think it was Hurricane Ian. It was really bad, but yeah, everybody was trapped on, just like Katrina.
Right.
And the footage that people, when GoPro started getting big and sharing on the internet. Yeah. Somebody's got to grab them and get them out of there.
Yeah. And the other cool thing we're doing now is we just call it inland search and rescue because it's not in the ocean.
Yeah.
But our rescue swimmers are outfitted with proper kits and outerwear and whatnot to operate in an inland environment. So a mountainous terrain, for example. So we respond to a lot of plane crashes and missing hikers, stuff like that, or hikers on a mountain that are injured and can't walk out anymore. But we'll do evacuations from those scenarios as well. So we actually at our rescue swimmer school in Petaluma, we started an inland search and rescue training program that basically gets them indoctrinated into using GPS watches and getting familiar with all that gear and that kit that they're going to get issued when they get to their units. It's basic survival stuff, starting fires and signaling and running through an EMT medical scenario in that environment. It's all stuff that we, put into the training pipeline since we moved the school to Petaluma.
It's awesome to hear that. Yeah. Take advantage of what we have. We're so lucky, when you really think about it as U.S. citizens, to have someone like the Coast Guard and everything you just laid out there is so much more to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. The training's great, and the capabilities, these guys get to go out and do these rescues. It's freaking awesome.
Just to wrap it up here, if there's a lot of kids that are going to listen to this and that are wanting to join the Coast Guard, whether it's a rescue swimmer or anything else involved in the Coast Guard, what kind of advice would you give them? Like I said, it doesn't necessarily need to be a rescue swimmer, but anybody that's interested.
Yeah. If you want to join to be a rescue swimmer, I think I detailed it out pretty good earlier of what that process looks like to get here. But you've got to invest the time and the effort on your end to get to be successful. All right. You can't just show up to the Coast Guard and say, I want to do this, and go through the training pipeline and expect success from that, because there's too much that's going to be required from you for you to not prepare yourself ahead of time. So my advice for people wanting to be rescue swimmers, get on YouTube, get in the books, and figure out what kind of training you need to be doing. Talk to recruiters. They can put you in touch usually with, an active duty AST or rescue swimmer, and we can kind of get you pointed in the right direction, and you can get that training started, right? Because all of that's just going to help you when you get to us and you already are up to speed.
Yeah.
If you've got old injuries, if you've got shortcomings where in the physical fitness areas, right, or in swimming, those things need to be fixed before you come to us. Because if you have an old, say, basketball injury when you show up, that's only going to get exacerbated by our training and what we do, right? So that would be my advice. You've got to dedicate your life to this process. As I mentioned, we have a 50 to 60% attrition rate historically. That's not going to change.
No.
The standards are set. We are asking for a special person, right? We're looking for that special person that's going to leave a helicopter in the middle of the night in 40-foot seas to go save somebody on their worst day, right? That is a special person that needs to be identified to carry out this process. So you've got to dedicate your life to. You got to eat, sleep,
full
breathe,
commitment, man.
Full commitment. It's not 100%; it's 130%, whatever it needs to be. But you've really got to step up your commitment to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't be on one day and off the next day. If you're going to sign up for this, come into it full speed ahead.
Oh yeah,
fully committed to it for sure.
Yeah, like he said, if any of you guys that are listening have any questions, just reach out to your local recruiter. They'll get you taken care of. And Chris, man, I'm so stoked that we were able to knock this out, and appreciate you taking your time.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Cool. If anybody's interested in joining the Coast Guard, click the link in our bio or go to gocoastguard.com. That's gocoastguard.com.